Hello, welcome on my YouTube channel. I'm so happy to see you here again. So, in this video, we will talk about how to switch between strings smoothly when you have a slur. Actually, I covered topic how to switch this between the strings smoothly in another video, so you can see this video here and make sure that you watched this video. So, and also subscribe, and if this video is helpful for you, like it. And also I want to say that if you have any questions or you would like me to cover any topic, just put it on the comment section down there, and I'm sure that you will see that video, that topic in my future videos. So let's start then. In the previous video about how to switch between strings smoothly, we talked about when you switch from one string to another, you shouldn't touch other strings. So you play on D string, and when you need to play on A string, for example, you shouldn't touch other strings. So it will help you to achieve good quality of sound. And of course, it will increase your bowing skill. And also, it's actually one technique, but when we are talking about switching between the strings with a slur, it's another technique. Just quick reminder, what is slur? Slur means when you need to play two notes for the one bow. For example, I play D, and in the middle of the bow, I changed the note. I played E. So it's just a simple example. What I also need to mention that when you play, for example, long passage, what is passage? Passage, it means when you play many notes up or down, doesn't matter. So if you noticed here, I just played D major scale for one bow up and then for one bow down. In this situation, we need to switch from D to A string. So this little and very short moment when you switch between two strings might actually be not such smooth as it should be actually. So let's talk a little bit more about how to do that. And actually, as beginner, even when you play just two notes for the one bow, it's also important to understand technique, how you can do the switching very smooth and nice. So tip number one, when you need to switch between two notes on different strings, you need to leave your fingers on the strings. So for example, we need to switch between E on D string and C sharp on A string. So it will be first finger and second. Just leave them on the strings. Don't remove them when you connect to these notes. Don't try to do this. If you noticed, I raised my first finger and I had some noise, yeah? Also, if you need to connect, for example, any note with the open string, the principle is the same. You just need to leave only one finger on the fingerboard. For example, we will connect F sharp and A. F sharp, second finger on D. If I will raise my finger a little bit earlier, again, you will hear that noise. Did you hear that? Yeah. So it's actually very important. Also, I want to mention that this tip is a good preparation for you for double stops. In the future, you will play them. I'm quite sure about that. So from this tip number one comes out tip number two. When you keep and leave your fingers on the fingerboard, don't touch other strings. I know that sometimes for the first time it will be quite tricky, but when you will practice this switching, just try to find such comfortable position for your fingers so you will not touch other strings, because if you will touch other string, the sound will not be nice. For example, I put my first finger and second finger as we did in the tip number one, yeah, so E and C sharp. I don't touch other strings. Let me show you how it will sound if I will touch, for example, with my second finger, string D. It's actually another note. Sometimes actually it's not quite nice sound, but I tried my best to do the worst sound. Okay, so let's continue. And also, for example, when you connect open string with other note, is the same situation. Don't touch with your finger open string. If you will touch, it will be already another note. Oh, yeah, you've heard it. Okay, so it's important to find this position for your fingers. Also, I want to mention that if you have quite long nails, can you see my nails? They are quite short. It will be even more tricky, I will say, because usually we use fingertips when we put fingers on the fingerboard, and it's easier to find that position with short nails. Okay, so let's move on. Tip number 3. So when we switch between the strings with the slur, we need also to do that with our wrist, right hand. Can you see my wrist? This exercise is called snake. When you put, again, we will talk about the same example, E, C sharp. Put two fingers on the same time, two notes on different strings. So we put our bow on the string D. And then when you will play to these notes, first time, for example, you need to play just once, E, C. And what is important? You need to check your wrist and make sure that you are doing it with your wrist. So in this situation, it's not nice if you will do it with your elbow. If you will do it with your elbow, there is more chance that you will touch G string. So the space between D and A strings, as we talked in my previous video about switching between the strings, is much more less than, for example, here. You don't have another string after G. So make sure that you are doing it with your wrist and the space is very small. So for the exercise snake, I think it would be nice if you will do it first time once, for example, E, C, one time. Good. So you checked your wrist. Then 2 times on the one bow, I mean. And make sure that you use your wrist. So also your little finger will help you to do that. Yeah, let me show you the principle. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that movement seems like it's a wave, but I called it snake. Tip number 4. Remember that on different strings, we have different elbow. So in my course, I actually told about this exercise, which is called string. I covered this topic, and if you would like to, you can join my academy and you will get access to many videos about bowing and other technique on the violin as beginner. So on different strings we have different levels, and here we need to make sure that the level of the elbow is on the right position. On the D string it's a little bit higher, on A string a little bit lower, E the lowest. Yeah, so probably for the first time you need to play just, for example, 2 strings at the same time, D and A. For example, in our example, E, C sharp, we need to play D and A because our notes on the strings D and A. So we'll need to hold our elbow between these strings. And final tip, number 5. I would say this tip is very important. When you switch from one string to another, to one note to another, play for a short time 2 notes at the same time. It's also actually called double stop. In the future, you will play it. So let's take our example again. E, C sharp. Probably you didn't hear the double stop, but I played it. It was very short for a while, even less than a second. but it helps me to connect two strings smoothly. Listen. Did you hear that moment? Again. Yeah, so for the short time, you need to play two notes at the same time. Also, how you can prepare yourself to the smooth switching, you can put two fingers at the same time on the strings and to play two notes at the same time. Do you remember in tip number 4, I told you that you need to play two strings at the same time, and in the tip number 4 it was D and A. And actually the principle is the same. We play two notes on two different strings, D and A, and we need to play them at the same time. So you will check your level of the elbow. Then try to do it with the fingers. And I think if you will do all these tips, you will connect two strings, you will switch from one string to another very smooth, even with a slur. So let's take an example now and talk about switching between the strings, how we can practice it. So this piece is called gavotte. This piece actually for beginners, and if you will download it in description, you will be able to play all of this piece from the beginning till the end, but we will play only on the third line, last 2 bars. Are you ready? Okay, let's look at this example. So we will start from the second bar on the second line, sorry. Yeah, so we will start from the second bar on the third line. We have 4 slurred notes, and we will need to connect 2 last notes of this bar. It will be D, third finger, and open E. Don't rush to raise your third finger for the D. And then we have like couplets for F with open A, G with open A, then again F and E, F, A, G, and E. And all of these notes you need to connect with open A. So how you can practice it? So it will sound like that. So how you can practice it? First of all, try to play two notes at the same time, double stops. And make sure that you, actually when you play double stops, it seems like you always play open string, open A, but on E string you need to change notes. So what you need to practice here, make sure that you don't touch other strings and you don't rush when you raise your fingers. Now we will play slowly and we will listen for these double stops, but we will play these double stops now shorter. So when you will practice it, you can do it this way and then to play a little bit faster. And I'm sure you will do it perfectly and easily. So I will see you in the next videos. And don't forget, if you have any questions, I'm waiting for them in the comment section. Bye! If you would like more complete and advanced information, just kindly visit my website with the link in the description box below. I will be waiting for you there.